Arsenal 2, West Ham 1. It wasn't the best, but we got the job done. I didn't actually mean to make that rhyme, but it did. I'm a lyrical genius, Raf, when you come in a second. But yeah, I'm learning. I'm learning by the day. How about that, Raf? Got some lyrics there.
Yeah. Oh, mate. Oh, that's
Growth.
hilarious.
Growth. See, I spent 10 minutes around you.
Oh,
I can
man.
rap all of a sudden.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. You're a natural.
There you go. How are you doing, mate? You good?
Yeah, yeah. Better after the Eddie goal. I must admit. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm
Just
sure
a
we'll get
bit.
onto it. Good.
Yeah, we will. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Goalkeeper Talk. Back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our reaction of player ratings, which is I can barely get my words out because I'm still kind of just reeling from what has been a tumultuous evening of watching Arsenal. As we're used to, kind of. I mean, we've missed this pain, and just the tension that we get being Arsenal fans leading up to win. But yeah, let's go straight into things and talk about our player ratings. Of course, we give them a rating out of 10. There's no 0.5s or half ratings. You just give them a solid number out of 10, and we talk through them. So we'll start off at the back and go with Leno. I went with a 5, which makes it seem like he conceded about 15 goals, but he didn't. But he just felt a bit flappy. Was it just me, or did he just feel a bit flappy today?
I get it, and that's why I gave him a 6 as opposed to like a 7 or something, because there was a couple. He came for the cross and kind of dropped it. I must admit, though, I did think he broke his neck, like when he fell, because I was like, he kind of felt like. So that's kind of why I kind of. And there was just a little bit in regards to his kicking. Well, not kicking per se, but sometimes I think he takes a bit long when he's playing out from the back, and it does put us in a little bit of trouble sometimes. So that's the only thing that I would say for me why it wasn't like a 7. It was a couple of little hairy-ish moments. So yeah, but he was a bit happy, I must admit. But I think that one, it was more the defender and the way that he's fallen. And he saved it at the end. So I think
Did,
that he kind of redeemed himself a little bit. But yeah, I think a 6 was just about it for me.
Yeah, I went for 5 because I just didn't have that same confidence in him. I think that the goal wasn't necessarily like, it's a weird one when it comes to goals like that, because the ball's played across the box kind of like at that level, and it's tough. It's a tough one to kind of take. But at the same time, positionally, maybe he could be in a better position to kind of stop that and sort of anticipate where Antonio's positioning is going to be. But he was quite far forward. He was quite near the near post as it came in. He was in complete no man's land when Antonio got on the end of it. So that came into it. I thought he was just a bit flappy. He'd come in to claim crosses, and it just didn't really seem that comfortable. 5 might be harsh, but I wouldn't be going anywhere near higher than a 6 is what you've given him. Holding, we've gone for a 7. I have a feeling that in the chat box we may get some criticism for this, because I saw a lot of criticism of Holding in the live show straight after the game and also on social media. Why did you think he constituted a 7?
I thought he had a good game. I thought he was the one that was kind of up against Antonio the most, and I felt like you see them kind of smiling and laughing against each other and stuff. Like I felt like the battle was good, and I think he stood up in the main to the physical battle. I don't think he made too many glaring errors. I think in a game like that where we were under the cosh, you needed like a bit of a defensive head, like a cool head, and I think he seemed to provide that, and I just think ultimately he stood up to the challenge. I think Antonio is a difficult customer. He's a very difficult striker to play against. He runs the channels. He's strong. He leans on you all the time, and I just think that Holding kind of stood up to that challenge, which is something I've kind of always looked for him to do, because he's looked a little bit sometimes like he could get roughed about a little bit, and I felt like today was one of the first times when I felt like he's a rugged defender when he needs to be, if that makes sense. I felt like he had a decent performance. Without it being amazing, I thought he had a solid performance.
Yeah, that's kind of how I looked at it, to be honest. I just thought he was solid. Like, he didn't make any glaring errors. He didn't do anything unbelievably good. He just stood himself up. He wasn't at fault for the goal. And he just had an okay game. Like, and I think a 7 is about right. I mean, Colin in the chat said he was about a 4. I mean, to be a 4, you'd have to do some incredibly bad things wrong in a game. I don't really subscribe to that sort of level of criticism.
I do think sometimes with some of the players in our squad, I feel like people are just waiting for them to not have an amazing game to say they're rubbish. And I think Holding does fall into that category. I think Mustafi does. I think Xhaka does. Where it's all Bellerin. It's like we're just waiting. Like there's a section of fans that are just waiting to say they're crap or they're not good enough for our side. And I think he didn't do anything wrong in this game. For me personally, I didn't see anything that he done that was like bad. So yeah, I think a 7's justified.
If a centre back doesn't do anything wrong in a game, I don't get how you can go lower than a 7. Because if a defender does anything wrong, it's usually going to lead to a really good opportunity, and he didn't do that all game. So I don't really. I mean, if you think that you're around a 5 for someone that's not done anything wrong in a game, they'd have to, I don't know what they have to do to get anywhere near a 10. They'd have to score a blooming like hat trick or something. It's just a bit of a weird one for me to be thinking about him lower. Gabriel, we kind of gave it a similar. I mean, we did give a similar rating for another sort of solid performance. The goal, he was obviously involved in sliding in with Antonio. But there's a couple of good things that he did, like he kind of interrupted play. Out of interest, though, there was a penalty call for West Ham involving Gabriel, and I don't know if you saw the Man United game, the penalty that they were given. But they were kind of arguing that Gabriel, if the Lindelof one's a pen, the Gabriel one's a pen. I just don't see that point of view at all, because the way that it hits, one, it's a cross that's coming in. It's not like Ayew when he was taking the shot and it would have been blocking a shot that was going in. It was a cross. He's jumped up to head it. It struck him just beyond the shoulder, but apparently the threshold is in line with the like where your armpit is, which is not where he was hit by any means. So I didn't really get that. But talk to me about that and also his performance in general.
Yeah, I think sometimes, again, I think the Lindelof handball was contentious, I guess, but it did hit him in an awkward position. But I didn't really see how they're the same. I was looking at it and I looked at it just now because Match of the Day was on just to double check again, and I was like, I don't see the parallels really, if I'm honest. I don't think either of them. You could argue either of them were yellow cards, but again, I don't think that was a pen for me. Also, the one against Bowen, I think he went down a bit easily. He does get into these little slight hairy moments where I don't know whether it's just the way he plays and he plays on the edge, or it's just him just getting acclimatized into the league and stuff and a little bit of experience. But I mean, overall, I think he had some crucial blocks. Crucial headers. I felt like when it was time to kind of step up in certain areas where you need a defender to kind of make a crucial, like whether it's a challenge, whether it's a block, whether it's a header, he kind of stood up to that challenge when we were under the cosh a lot. And I think that he again just showed his quality.
Oh, Raf has disconnected out of nowhere. I'm not quite sure why. His connection was a little bit dodgy, so let's see if we'll get him back in a second. Whilst we wait for Raf to reconnect, kind of going back over the Gabriel stuff. Oh, he might be back right now. Raf, are you there, mate? Are you with us?
Yeah, what just happened there?
Yeah, you just jumped out, mate. You disappeared out of nowhere.
Yeah, it just logged me out. I don't know what happened. Sorry about that. But yeah, I just said overall, I think he just stood up to the challenge, and I think he was good at crucial times. He made crucial blocks, interceptions, key things that meant that we didn't concede, and I think that's why for me it was another good, solid performance. I'm really enjoying what I'm seeing from Gabriel.
Yeah, me too. I think we're seeing a lot of him much quicker than I expected to, so it's good news. On the other end of the spectrum is Kolasinac, who of course came in because Tierney was injured. I went for a 5, which I'm looking at as still generous. You went for a 6, but I think you mentioned off air that you kind of wanted to dip it to a 5 after I'd made the thumbnail. So talk me through his performance.
I mean, I think why initially I was looking at a 6 was because obviously, again, context, he didn't know he was going to play. So, coming into the team, obviously half an hour before kickoff or whatever it was, I could understand like nerves, but I mean, just in general, this wasn't. He just doesn't fill me with any confidence whatsoever. Like, there's little things. I think he was slightly at fault for the first goal. You can't help but feeling that Tierney blocks that cross. Also, I don't know. He's just such an ungraceful footballer at times. Like even the cross where Xhaka's played the ball over the top, and all you had to do is just a little bit of quality and a bit of composure, and we probably have another chance. And then he just like skies it into the stands, and then I just don't think overall he had the best of games, and I felt a bit sorry for him in that obviously he didn't know he was going to play, but I just didn't really rate his performance, to be honest.
No, it was disjointed. There was misplaced passes. His positioning was all off. He didn't really get the fluidity and the position change of the team. I think he had a knock-on effect on the positioning of other players on the pitch. He left players like Gabriel really exposed as well, which Tierney just doesn't do. And I mean, right at the end of the game where he got into that sort of forward position and then, as you said, blasted it into the stand, just kind of capped off a really poor performance from him. And I was saying on the show straight after the game, if we're going into Liverpool game with Kolasinac starting, I really have big worries about what we might do in that game, but we just have to wait and see. On the other side, we of course had Hector Bellerin, who had a really good game against Fulham. I genuinely can't think of something he did during the game. I thought he was pretty invisible. I can't pick out one thing in my mind that Bellerin did that sticks in there. He might have done a few things, but in terms of like being memorable, I just can't remember a specific moment that he did in the game. And so I gave him a 6 for that. You've rated him about the same as Gabriel and Holding. Do you want to talk me through that?
Yeah, I look, you set me up a little bit. I like what you did there. But yeah, to me, I'll be honest, I felt like it was a solid game for him. I felt like he linked up quite well with Willian. I felt like what we've been asking for Bellerin to do was overlap. I think he did that a lot more. I think there was times when he was making a forward run and Willian didn't find him. What wasn't Willian's best game, but we'll get onto that. But I felt like Fornals didn't really have an impact in the game. I felt Bowen was a lot more involved in their build up and in their link up, and I think when it came to Fornals, and even Masuaka, who came into the game in the second half, I felt like Bellerin dealt with that pretty well overall. I think it was a little bit of a I just think he had a decent game. I don't think it was a bad game. I just think that he was overall solid, and I think when we were under the cosh, he did all right, So I thought overall he had a decent game.
I don't agree with any of that, which is fine. Because this is the whole point of us coming on the show is having these different opinions. I just felt that he didn't offer anywhere near the Bellerin that we saw in the Fulham game. What about his game did you think was solid? Because do you think it's because he didn't necessarily make a big key error that his game was solid? I mean, we talked about Holding in the way that he was kind of good because he didn't do anything wrong. Was it the same? Do you think it's the same for Bellerin? Or?
Yeah, I felt like Bellerin a lot of the time. Bellerin there's a lot of misplaced passes. I think in terms of build up play, sometimes Bellerin slows everything down. He didn't do that today per se. I didn't think it came from him. I think that defensively he gets caught out sometimes. He didn't. I felt like he was offering an outlet when it was needed, and I just felt overall he had a decent game. And I think sometimes with defenders, if they don't do anything wrong, it's because they've had a solid game. And I think that when normally where the wingers and fullbacks overload on your fullbacks or your wing backs, you can normally see or tell there's a glaring issue as to why they were overloading in that area. And I just think as soon as I just don't think that he allowed that today, and I just feel overall we had a solid performance.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I don't think it was outstanding, but I don't think.
No, of course I don't. I'm not saying that
right.
you thought it was. I was just kind of trying to make the comparison between like the Holding and Gabriel performance in comparison to Bellerin. The way that I mean, Owen in the chat box said about a few times that he looked to burst it forward and get us up the pitch. I just thought that he didn't really connect as well with Willian as he did in the Fulham game, and he wasn't positionally in the right places that Willian needed him to be. That I've seen it from the perspective of it being Willian that was trying to make things happen, but I think other people have seen it from the perspective that Willian wasn't in the game as well as he should have been, which I suppose, I mean, let's go on to Willian next. It makes sense to do that. I gave him a 6. You've given him a 6. I thought that I thought that he was kind of limited by Bellerin in a way, not being in the positions that Bellerin was in the Fulham game to receive the same sort of passes. It might have been down to West Ham's tactical sort of defensive display and matching us 3 for 3 at the back, but he just wasn't really in the game as much, anywhere near as much as he was against Fulham.
Yeah, so even with this one, if you saw in the before, I actually thought that Willian, I thought he was initially a 6, but even thinking about it, I put him down to a 5. I felt like Willian didn't have a great game at all. I thought he was on the periphery of the game pretty much. I feel like the problem with Willian, which we're gonna have, is that when people stand him up, he actually just can't beat anyone. He can't beat a man really. He's a lot more in terms of actual build-up play and link-up play and the intricacies of our build-up. He'll be good in, and he may create chances in that way. But I mean, in terms of just actually trying to go past someone or make something happen in that sense, I think he struggles. I think his passing just wasn't really. It wasn't as on point as it has been. I think in the final third, he just didn't connect as well as he did against Fulham. That may have been down to West Ham, but I felt like Bellerin made some good overlapping runs and he didn't find him. There was one in particular where he tried to go where the pass wasn't really on, and he tried to go in, like down the side of the centre back and the fullback when he needed to go on the outside, and then Bellerin would have been through. There was just other little things where I just felt he didn't really connect, and I felt like I felt like that was a game for Pepe, to be honest, as opposed to Willian. And I think that's what maybe Arteta's going to have to figure out as to what games are for who, because I just didn't feel like he did anything really, and I just felt like he was on the periphery of a lot. His set pieces weren't as good as well. So yeah, I don't know. I wasn't impressed today. But I mean, he is just coming into the team, so
he is, yeah. And I think I was speaking to a couple of Chelsea fans, and they said that he does have sort of games where he just does go missing, and you just forget that he's playing. And I suppose that was one of them. When he's great, and when he's not there, he is noticeable that he's not there. An interesting one is Danny Ceballos. I gave him a 6, and so did you. Yeah, you said just, and it's interesting because John sent me a tweet. In the chat, it says Danny Ceballos' game by numbers versus West Ham: 124 touches, 101 passes, 90% pass accuracy, 11 final third entries, 9 duels won, 8 recoveries, 3 clearances, 3 tackles made, 3 aerial duels won, 2 blocks, 1 assist. Numbers wise, it's as if he had a really good game, but I don't know what it was. I just didn't think he did. It was really strange. I don't think he had that great of a game. Like, maybe it's because I'm holding him to such high standards from seeing him last year, and maybe it was such a drop off from the performances that we're used to from Ceballos that I'm being extra harsh. But I didn't think he was that great.
I think that is like a perfect example of, like, stats don't mean anything. Like, not don't mean everything.
Remember you're on the tactical breakdown show, Raf.
yeah. No, but I mean, in terms of stats, they don't mean everything. In terms of like in terms of his passing and stuff, he lost the ball a lot. He lost the ball in key areas at times, or his misplaced passes put us in trouble. I felt like he was quite laboured. I felt like he needed to move the ball a lot quicker. I think what Ceballos does sometimes, which I think it does annoy me sometimes. And Ramsey used to do it a little bit at times. Was they don't actually move the ball. They kind of they kind of run with the ball or kind of carry the ball, but not in like efficient or effective areas. So you kind of just need to actually just pass the ball, let the ball move. Like even when you used to play when you were younger, they also like let the ball do the work. So it's like if you move or they pass with an angle to get the ball back when it's like other people making runs and it's like he's not seen them because he almost wants the ball again. And I just felt like where Xhaka was a bit more incisive in his passing in regards to actually passing in between the lines, I felt like Ceballos just hung on to the ball a bit too much. And I don't think he did a lot of good passes in key areas. And I think and he was looking at, for me, he was looking like a 4 at one stage. But I felt like what I do like about Ceballos is he doesn't hide. He always does look for the ball. And ultimately he created the assist for Nketiah. So I felt like he grew into the game towards the end. But yeah, this was definitely not one of his best performances at all.
That's the thing. I think that that's a really good point, is that he grew into the game. And I think sometimes that skews people's opinions of a player because they remember the most recent part of what they see of him. And these last 10, 15 minutes were a lot better than the first 75 minutes. And that's why a lot of people get skewed. I also think, and we always talk about on the ratings about context, is that we're used, and I'm used to seeing Ceballos be absolutely brilliant towards the end of last season. And that performance was below what I would consider a Ceballos performance. So just because I gave Bellerin, say, a 6, in context, it's a different kind of 6 to the 6 I've given Ceballos, if it makes sense, because it's in context from what I'm used to from seeing the Spaniard play. And I don't think that kind of bleeds into what you were saying about Bellerin earlier. The 7 that you gave Bellerin doesn't necessarily stack up to the same 7 that you gave Gabriel. They're all situational. They're all in context and they're all relative to themselves. And I think that is important to remember, is that, and it kind of bleeds into that conversation we have about market value of players. Just because a player like Aaron Ramsdale moves for 18 million doesn't then that mean that Emi Martinez will move for a different price. I think it's the same for this. Player ratings are contextual to that player's situation, scenario, history, style of play, statistical output. I think all of those things come into it. So just because you give one player one number, it doesn't necessarily mean that you give another player a number based off that. Granit Xhaka was just Granit Xhaka, to be honest, for me. It was a classic Granit Xhaka 7 out of 10 performance. It wasn't anything special. He just kept things ticking over, playing the passes out wide, kept us moving. As you said, something that Ceballos doesn't do is that Xhaka lets the ball do the work, and that's what he does really, really well. So talk me through what you thought of the Swiss midfielder's performance.
Yeah, I felt again, I felt the first 10, 15, he was a bit sloppy. But I would say, apart from that, everything was pretty much, kind of just a Xhaka type performance. He kept the ball ticking. I felt like in moments of the game, he passed in between the lines that gave us a little bit more energy at times. I felt like, I felt like passing wise, he was good. I felt like he kept things ticking over. He was just another solid performance. I felt like he had a close to man of the match performance in regards to no one was outstanding, and I felt like he was solid. I don't think he was poor personally, but
no, never. I think those comments. I don't really understand why people thought he was terrible. It's really weird. He's like, the thing is I think he fools a lot of people because he's not a likable player for what he does. And I think he's a hard player to appreciate in what he does. And I put a tweet out saying, like, Xhaka foul winning stat count 1, because he wins so many fouls in really in dangerous positions in our own half is that when he's under pressure, he finds ways to win fouls when he knows he can't get out of situations, which takes the pressure off the team. And it's just something that goes completely unnoticed. And I try and get people to try and look at that and say, just count how many times he wins fouls in our own half, because it's a ridiculous amount of times that he does that. And the ticking over the play, the keeping the passing moving, letting the ball do the work is what he does really well. And I just don't get why there was so sort of negative opinions of him. I really don't get it.
Yeah, and I think what he also does as well is just to kind of piggyback off your point. He wins free kicks when we're actually under pressure. So not only just when we're in a bit of to get himself out of trouble, sometimes it's to actually just to kind of just settle everything down a little bit, so we can kind of take our time with a free kick, maybe just kind of stem the tide of the other team. And it's just little gamesmanship like that. I think it kind of shows his leadership qualities at times. But I mean, to me, it was a solid performance. I can't really fault him, because I don't think he did much wrong, personally.
No. And then I think with Xhaka, there's going to be two types of people that watch Xhaka. Is the people that will always have a negative view of Xhaka. No matter what he does, he will never get out of that negative stigma. I can see comments in the chat about, I'm not going to indirectly reference them. Let's find where he says it's about when he gets caught in possession and here we go. Michael says fouls on Xhaka are never fouls. He gets caught on the ball and throws himself down in hopes of a foul. I don't think that's true at all. I think that he recognises situation. I think he reads the game really, really well, and he knows when he can put his body in the right place to do so. 100%. He understands.
If you shield the ball and somebody goes into the back of you, that's a foul. So if he does that, if he knows, if he's getting himself, if there's a position where he feels like, okay, if I lose the ball here, it could cause us in trouble, and I shield the ball enough that if they touch me in a way, or if they push me in the back, I can go down and win a foul, then he does it. That again is just kind of understanding of the game. I don't think that's a bad thing. Obviously, sometimes he's been caught out in the past, but I think it's very rarely he does when you look at the amount of fouls that he wins at times when it's to get us out of trouble, personally.
Yeah, I agree with you. Bukayo Saka, you went with a 7 rating. I went with a 6. I thought he really struggled to get in the game. I think that he was a little bit rusty.
I actually had a 6, you know.
Did you put down a 6? Is that my fault?
Yeah.
Hey, remember at the start of the show when I said we're going to go through these and you can check them? This is on you.
Yeah, do you know what it was? That was the time. That was when everything went blank. Look, we're telling you, you trade secrets.
Imagine that Raf put a 6 up there for Saka.
Yeah. But I didn't think he had. So it's so weird with him, because I don't think he had the best of games, but ironically, he created the 2 chances. So it's weird. So and it goes to show, I think sometimes quality is quality, and I think overall with Saka, you may have those times in when he isn't at his absolute best, but he always has the ability to create something. And I think that's what he provides that's different to maybe Ainsley. That while Ainsley may be a bit, he may be better defensively in some ways, or there's other things that he'll bring in terms of quality. I think Saka's always going to have that touch of brilliance where, if you look at these 2 goals, they don't happen if they don't happen without Saka ultimately. So while I don't think it was his best game, I think that he creates 2 chances that give us the goals.
Yeah, exactly. I think again, this is one of those things where we talk about things in context, like what we expect from Saka. 2 moments of brilliance are great, and without those, he might have even been a worse off rating, because we expect so much from the guy. So I think a 6 is probably a fair representation of his performance. Aubameyang, recently off the signing of his new contract, you'd hope for a big display from him. I gave him a 7 because of the difference between the Aubameyang performance and the Saka performance is that. And the reason why I'd go a rating above Saka in context is that when he was on the ball, he didn't do anything wrong at all. And actually, he did create a great chance, which Lacazette scored from. He drove at the opposition when he was on the ball. He was a victim of Kolasinac's positioning a lot. It meant he was forced out wide way more than he usually is when Tierney's in the side. And I think he was a victim of that. But I suppose it's slightly hypocritical of me to say that he was a 7 because Aubameyang's 7 performance maybe is a goal. But he scored a goal in the Fulham game and we gave him an 8. So it's I suppose I'd go 1 down. I think if we did do like half ratings, it would be a 6.5, but we're not doing those. so we're going with the 7. So what do you think?
I think just being honest, I think he didn't do much wrong, but I would say that he was kind of in and out of the game. I think there was times when he was on the periphery, and I think the issue with sometimes what Aubameyang is a victim of his success for one, but also what I think with Aubameyang is a lot of the time he doesn't always do as much in a game. So when he doesn't score, he doesn't. You could look at it and think, what was his impact on the game overall? And I think that again, he obviously had an assist, which was good, and I felt like that was his contribution to the game. But I just think in general, he just wasn't as effective as he has been in the past. And obviously, if you're looking at someone like Ceballos and for example, and saying obviously you're looking at him to be his standard, I think Aubameyang's standard was a lot higher than the performance that we saw today. And it wasn't a bad performance per se, but I just think he didn't impose himself as much potentially as he could have. And maybe I'm holding him to a really high standard, but he didn't do badly. I mean, he worked hard for the team. And overall, I think he was decent. But just all right to me.
Okay, fair enough. Lacazette, you've given him the man of the match. He obviously scored the first goal off the back of Aubameyang's cross. I thought he was solid. I didn't think he was. I thought he went missing for part of the game, and there was parts of his game that I thought where he usually would find space, he kind of didn't, and his touch was a little bit off. But in the context of what we've seen from Lacazette over the last, say, 3 months or so, or the last sort of 10 games of the season where he's not been that great, I thought it was one of his better performances, and that's why I dropped him the 7. Why was he man of the match for you, out of interest?
For the simple fact he got the goal and nobody else was amazing. So it was like, I think he done all right. I think his hold-up play was decent. I think that his link-up play was good as well at times. I do think he was on the periphery at little parts of the game, but I think in the main, whenever we had build-up play, he showed himself. He was he worked hard for the team, and I just think he got the goal. And no one else, to be honest, was amazing. So that's kind of why he got man of the match for me. Like I said, it was probably there wasn't anyone. It was probably him or one of the defenders maybe that would have got man of the match. But I felt like he got the goal. That it was a good finish. It was one of those finishes that he should finish, but at the same time, it's not as easy as it looks. If that makes sense, he could have easily did it over the bar, he could have headed it to the ground or anything like that. So it was good finish. That's 2-2 now. And I think he did everything that was asked of him. So that's kind of why overall I gave him man of the match. I think it was a solid performance. No one was outstanding, if I'm being honest, but I felt like he just shaded it.
Subs, this is obviously for me the biggest part of the show. I think when you look at obviously what we were given, Eddie Nketiah came on and scored the goal. And in context, when you look at what he's done there, a lot of people will give him a 10 because he's won us the game, which I completely understand. I gave him the 7, and just obviously he won us the game. When you're in that short space of time as a substitute to come on, you've got to adapt to the game's pace and quickness, and he did that immediately. He was alert and alive when the chance was arriving. He got himself into the right position, made himself space, and then of course the ball across from Ceballos was great. So he was just there at the right time to win it for us. It's great for him. So I gave him man of the match. It is great to see him just doing that and getting off the bench and getting a goal, isn't it?
Yeah, I think with Eddie, again, obviously when you play up front, I think it's really like there's little things that probably don't look like big deals to people, but just him staying on side and make sure he was in line with Ceballos so that he's not offside. Those little things like that make that it's harder than it looks, if that makes sense. He could have been and I think he's really good at just typical movement of a striker and just moving in those positions. I just think he needs to believe in himself a bit more, just be a bit more relaxed when he plays, and I think he would score buckets of goals because I just think he's got a natural knack for scoring. So I was finishing. So I was happy that he got the goal today. I was happy that his movement was good. I mean, when he came on, his link-up play in general was good. I think there was little bits, and this is probably me being a little bit harsh. We were winning the game without necessarily playing well. I felt like there was times at the end of the game where he was maybe trying to score again or releasing the ball a bit too quickly, and I thought maybe he should have gone into the corner flag a little bit or just tried to retain possession. But I think that will come with time. I think it was just one of those things. But I think overall, he won us the game. I think his movement was good, and I think he'll probably play against Leicester as well. And I just think if he just if he's just composed and he just relaxes like he does for the under-21s, where he's probably a bit more comfortable and he's probably not chasing a finish, then I think you'll see Eddie scoring a lot more goals.
It's looking at the other subs, obviously David Luiz, I don't think we really need to talk about. He came at the end and just he's just there. That was about it. Pepe though, Pepe worries me because obviously you can't get past the price tag. It's not his fault he cost that much, but he did cost that much. That you can't get away from that fact. And when he came on to be the guy that you've got a £70 million player coming off the bench, and you're thinking, okay, that's a big player that Arsenal got to come off. He got 18 goal contributions last season. He started to come alive towards the end of it. But he really was very poor when he came on. I mean, he ran at players, ran the ball off the pitch a couple of times. He was off the pace. His touch was off. He just didn't. His confidence is seemingly just gone. I don't know how. It just seems he's a very fragile guy, and like the losing his place to Willian at the start of the season has maybe hit him. And although saying that, I mean, when he came on against Fulham, he looked bright. I'm hoping that obviously, and I would be very surprised if he doesn't start against Leicester. And in that game, he'd be given the opportunity to, of course, show us what he's about again. But I am still partly worried about him.
I'm less so, but I understand what you mean. I think with Pepe, even at Lille and at his club before, they did speak about it. It took him a while to kind of fully acclimatize. I think it's the start of the season. He came back a little bit late from to pre-season. I'm not entirely sure why. So I think there's still things where I'm not overly worried, but I understand. I take your point also in that I don't know if he's a player that is always going to just relish the battle, and he may be one of those players that needs to be completely loved and trusted to get the best out of him. So I don't know if this is going to be a good thing for him that Willian's kind of coming and taking his place. Having said that, although I don't think he was amazing, I think that what he was doing was what we needed in terms of, I felt like we needed someone to try and run with the ball, kind of get us out of trouble here and there, try and just carry the ball a little bit, because I felt like the way that Willian was playing, I felt like I just don't feel like he was offering anything, and at least kind of Pepe was offering a bit of an outlet so that he could run. There was a couple of times where he drove with the ball. It didn't come to anything really, but it just kind of just took us up the pitch a little bit. And I felt like at the time when we were under the cosh, that's what we needed. We needed someone who will kind of be able to carry the ball, kind of drive up the pitch and just give us a bit of a breather. Maybe win a foul, maybe just little things like that. And that was the only reason why I could say I'd give him a 6 instead of a 5 per se. Because while I don't think he was amazing, I think at the time it was what we needed. And I do think that he needs to, but I mean, it's a challenge. He has to be up for the challenge ultimately, because, I don't think, while I think Willian's going to be good for us in terms of like rotating within the squad, I don't necessarily think Willian is the absolute world-class top draw player that should keep you out of the team if you play to your full potential. Like, I think Pepe is a better player potentially, but I
Yeah.
think that Willian's more consistent. So yeah, so it'll
Mm.
be interesting. But I think overall, I gave him a 6 more because he was at least a bit of an outlet when we needed, because we were under the cosh severely at our point.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair enough. Last one then. Mr. Arteta, I gave him a 6. Again, this is contextual because I have such a high opinion of him. I think he's the best thing to happen to us since we signed Aubameyang, in my opinion, easily. So it's a case of having that high opinion of him when things aren't going as rosily. You need to be level-headed enough to turn around and say that it wasn't good. I didn't enjoy the team selection at all. I thought it was the wrong way to go about things after the first Fulham game. We've got a game against Leicester before Liverpool. That's the game that we should be looking at rotating players, especially like El Neni. I thought got a hard ride by not playing. I thought he earned the right to start again today after the 2 games against Fulham and Liverpool. I thought that Mainsley, I'm not saying that from a biased TGT perspective, but I thought Mainsley deserved to start again. And not picking him gives him those thoughts of, oh, okay, I've not been picked again. Maybe I should be looking to go somewhere else, when I don't want that to happen. And when you've got a game against Leicester in the League Cup where you know they are probably going to rotate a few players as well because it's the League Cup, etc., although Leicester do like to have a couple of cup runs when they can. I just thought that we've got opportunity to play Saka and play Ceballos and get them in match fit in that game ahead of Liverpool. And that in this West Ham game, we could continue our theme of trying to play as consistently as possible with the team. And I thought just not picking those 2 was a bit of an error. Obviously, it's great his sub came on and won the game, but it wasn't like a piece of tactical genius, was it? I mean, bringing Nketiah on for Lacazette is not... it's not a tactical genius, is it? It's just something you do. It's just you take off one striker, you bring on another striker. And this is coming from someone that usually has got nothing but good things to say about Mikel. So this is purely in context that I dropped him a 6. But what were your thoughts?
I thought that I kind of understood the subs, the change in lineup personally. I felt like coming into the game, West Ham would have been quite defensive minded, coming off of a 3-0 loss to Newcastle. Was it? They lost to Newcastle, so I thought that they were definitely going to be a lot more defense minded. They played kind of 4-5-4-1 in a way as well. So or switched it up. But I definitely understood playing Ceballos at home, maybe playing him with a bit more of a creative, playing a more creative minded midfielder in there for this game because of how I thought West Ham would probably line up. Similarly with Saka instead of Maitland-Niles. And if you remember, Maitland-Niles, while he wasn't dreadful, he didn't have his best of games either last week. Yeah. And I felt like maybe we would need a bit more creativity in this game than kind of maybe being solid. Obviously, the game panned out differently to maybe but I think that was a lot more down to our lack of fluidity, which could have been down to the players, but also I just think even the players that played last week, we just didn't really get going. And I think we kind of played into West Ham's hands in that we kind of gave them a bit more confidence in the game. I think if we came out sharp, we would have just took the game away from them. So I felt like tactically, I don't think we were bad. I also think obviously Tierney not playing and obviously him having to change it before the game, I think that also probably would have gone against him a little bit as well. And I think ultimately you still have to give him props for the subs, maybe the subs at the right time. I think he could have probably put on Pepe a little bit earlier because I didn't feel like Willian was offering as much. But I felt like that was the right sub to make. I felt like Nketiah coming on when he did was the right sub. And I felt like seeing out the game with Luiz was the right sub as well. So while I don't think it was one of the best performances as a team, I felt like there is something in winning when we're not playing amazing. And there is something in seeing out a win when the team's not firing in all cylinders as well. So I wasn't
Yeah.
angry at the decisions really. So I thought a 7 was kind of a fair result.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair enough. I think that I get the points about the timing of the subs, and that's right and all that. I just think it's because I hold him to such a high standard that when things don't go as right, I'm gonna drop down a couple of ratings. But it was ultimately a great win. We needed to pick up those points desperately because we want to push towards top 4 this season. Every game is as important as the next. Like you talk about every game being a must win. We can't afford to drop points, even if we were at the position where, like Manchester United losing today, we've got a 3 or a 6 point buffer technically on them already. It's just not a case of you can drop points. You just can't afford to do that if you're going for that position. Final thoughts before we wrap up, Raf?
Mate, sometimes games like this is a good thing that has come in a game like that we still won, and we can obviously address the issues that are needed. I think having a game midweek is good because obviously Liverpool on next week, if we play like that, we're going to get battered. So we just need to sharpen up, go again, and just keep on with winning momentum into midweek and then next week. But yeah, I think overall a forgettable game, but one at least we got 3 points.
Yeah, definitely so. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Please make sure you drop a like on the video. You can follow Raf at Messi Music on Twitter. So I feel like it wasn't that though. You put at Messi Music, but isn't it Messi the artist? Your Twitter account?
No, it's Messi Music. I don't know
You
what's
changed
going on.
it.
Yeah, I'll double check.
Because
Yeah,
on my
I changed
Twitter,
it.
it always comes up saying Messi the artist. We'll sort it out. You'll find it either way. Yeah, just
Just try. Just look, mate.
It'll come up. So give Raf a follow. He's excellent stuff over on there. So make sure you check him out. You can follow us at the Goon Talk TV. We'll be back again tomorrow, as always, for latest news and real reactions and a podcast on a Sunday, as we usually have. So I'll see you again soon. Up the Arsenal when we've won a game. It's fantastic to see that. But yeah, it was a struggle, but we got there. So I hope you've enjoyed it. Drop a like, subscribe if you're new, hit the notification bell if you want to make sure you receive every notification to get with the show. But it's been a pleasure. And as always, up the Arsenal.